So another important component of software systems is something called a reverse proxy. Now we did talk about load balancing, which is a feature of reverse proxies, but I do want to dive a little bit more into the purpose of a reverse proxy. But to understand this, what does the word reverse mean, right? It's the opposite of proxy. So we do need to kind of first talk about a proxy and how that's traditionally used in a business network. So in a business, you would have a network, and then inside your business network, you may have different employees, right? You might have different servers, you might have different computers. The idea of a proxy is that it is the one way that all of your computers and your employees and your servers are able to access the public internet, right? You want to lock down all of these computers so that you don't have people going to sites they're not supposed to, downloading things they might have accidentally clicked. And if you have a proxy in front of all this stuff, basically the proxy acts as the middleman to route to the internet. Okay. And I'm sure you've seen this before. Like if you want to browse the internet anonymously, you could use a proxy, which hides your IP, right? It makes requests on behalf of your IP and it sends you back the response so that, people don't know what you're doing. But this is also very beneficial to company networks so that you don't have servers accidentally getting exploited. So you could have like a web server over here and you could have a bad actor, a malicious user that is trying to get your server to call back out to them. But you could have some type of proxy rules to say, hey, the only sites that you're allowed the server to actually hit must be defined in this allow list. Okay, so again, it's a way to kind of protect your network. And again, you can also do like content filtering and rejections of certain domains if you don't want your employees doing things they shouldn't be doing at work. So where does the term reverse come into play? Okay, so instead of all this traffic going out of the network, instead, let's reverse all the edges. So now the traffic wants to come in. There's a user who wants to access your servers. So let's just go over here. I'll make a server over here, maybe even a couple servers. We'll have like a server for the API. We could have a web app. We could have like, I don't know, some internal tooling. Okay, so let's add the word reverse here. Now you'll see that the traffic is actually pointing inwards into our network. And again, what is the purpose of this? The purpose is to prevent these internal tools from being accessed from the outside, right? There's no public accessibility. So users are not able to directly access this tooling. They have to go through the reverse proxy. So this protects your web applications to make sure that everything is sent over like using HTTPS. Internally, these things could communicate with each other. Like you could have some type of internal network. They could be communicating with DNS, or they could be using like Kubernetes or something like Console to do service discovery so that they can figure out where all this internal tooling and API kind of lives. Now, one of the benefits of a reverse proxy is typically its load balancing abilities. So you can have this thing know how to route traffic using like a round robin approach or a sticky session approach to the same API. And your users don't know about it, right? Your users don't have to connect to the API directly. They just need to make a request to your domain. And then internally, it's going to figure out where to point this stuff. So this gives flexibility for rearranging or refactoring where your components live, how they actually operate. You can easily take down a node and your users will just get trafficked to the other operational healthy nodes. Another cool benefit of reverse proxies is you can typically have like rewrite rules. So for example, if you wanted to have a web application, like a static hosting site running inside your network, but also you have an external API, you could do a /rewrite rule so that when someone goes to /API, it automatically rewrites the traffic to go to this API. And the API would handle the request, figure out like the subpath that you're trying to go to, and rearrange all the URLs to figure out what it needs to return back. And then all the other traffic that's not on that /API could just go to the web app. And I'm sure you've seen this with Nginx or Apache. It's very easy to set up these rewrite rules. And that allows flexibility to have all of your stuff still live on the same domain, like the top level domain, without having to go and deploy a different subdomain to get that going. Now, I already talked about the security benefits. I talked about the scaling benefits. Let's also talk about performance benefits. So typically, when you're trying to make a request to a server, you have to do it over HTTPS, right? Now, it turns out that this actually requires a little bit of extra computation. It's a little bit slow doing this connection. And so the reverse proxy allows you to do an SSL termination here so that all the traffic inside of the proxy is just going to be over plain HTTP, right? You drop the S, the secure part of it, so that you can actually get that performance benefit of faster network traffic between these. Now, and the reason we can do this is because the only way to get into this network, assuming you have it secured correctly, is that you have to go through the reverse proxy. So all of your public users would be going through here, and then now you can have faster communication between your internal services without having to do that HTTPS handshake and all this other stuff. And this also allows having a single place for all your certificates, right? Instead of having to configure all these, which technically these could use HTTPS as well. You could have the certificates live on your node application or whatever, and you don't need Caddy. But if you have a centralized place for your certificates, it just makes managing your infrastructure a little bit easier. Now, typically, I mean, something like Caddy would do all this for you. It uses Let's Encrypt to make your certs, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, that's a general overview of how it kind of works. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of features and things I didn't mention, but again, I'm trying to keep these videos short just to give you a quick little overview, 6 to 8 minutes, of how these things kind of work, like how does a reverse proxy work. So if you do have another suggestion of a high-level architecture or system diagram I can draw out or teach, let me know. I really enjoy doing this stuff. Other than that, have a good day and happy coding.